So then we are back with more understandings from the time of the Second Tabernacle services, where we find the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Israelic lineage. So then we can understand the time of the end as per YershiYAhu the prophet. We find layers of understanding of the spring feast, the autumn feast, and also the returning of the cities of the Mashiach laid waste from many centuries. As we read then in YershiYAhu the prophet, let's understand a portion of the scripture regarding this great prophet, regarding then the chapter number 20 of YershiYAhu, known as then on a Greco-Roman translation as Isaiah. And then let's evaluate what had made him walk naked in Jerusalem, or then in Yashurum, for the span of 36 months. So sometimes we have a preconceived idea what the divine then may request from us. And as we read then YershiYAhu, what has made then the divine given this order for the prophet, so then he was obviously walking naked for a very long period of time? As the prophecy states, then this is how then the people that the prophecy was related with, they are going to be taken captive. And truly it was a form of shame when then other nations were conquered and then led away naked, so then the shame would become unbearable. So sometimes when we have a tendency of understanding the Spirit, we have this obvious desire of understand the divine. And then sometimes people try to change the text only to make more readable, or then not so bluntly scoundrelized. For instance, you find then this great prophet walking naked, and when people then they read this in a church or in the gathering places, they get a bit awkward. Oh, but some people they say, because he had a cloth around his waist, or no, making those claims. But YershiYAhu was very clear as far as what this great prophet should do. Now there is a section when we talk of the Spirit that also could be interpreted as a person that simply has mentioned the outcome of a prophecy and he didn't change his mind. So we have to work with the spiritual realm and also the physical realm. But as far as the prophecy is concerned, it states this is how then the people are going to be led away captive. So YershiYAhu the prophet then obviously walked naked as mandated by the divine. So then in this world of money a sex oriented world we lived in, and we are yet living in this huge trouble worldwide, we then ask ourselves the situation: if YershiYAhu was your neighbor back then walking naked, would you believe him? And many people they get somewhat fugitive when they ask this question bluntly, because their beliefs in the holy instructions truly is not as strong as they're thinking of. Another situation that we should be relevant is then regarding this New Testament, concerning then the life of the Shaliach Shimon, known as Peter. His nickname in Aramaic was then Rock. Obviously, he was a very hard guy to get along with, and that's where then the rock comes from. So then, when the Mashiach was walking with them, and he received bluntly an understanding of who he was, because of the strength the Mashiach felt in him, then he was talking about then the propagation of the Torah. It's got nothing to do with the church. It has to do then with understanding of the spring feast completed, and then making sure that Hamashiach ben Yosef was then the promised Hamashiach sent and the prophet spoken of by Mehushua many centuries earlier. When people are not familiar with the Hebrew words and Hebrew understandings, they find the situation, oh, he's talking of Jewish religion. But truly, religion was not even explained yet. We are simply reading the text from the original language. People should be more concerned in what it is, for instance, YershiYAhu, YershiYAhu, Daniel, Ezekiel, and then other very important writings such as Melech Tzaddik. You find also the writings of Enoch, Yasher, great sources of information that are related with the Word as we know of today. So the divine never gave the order of selecting only 66. The divine protects every piece of scripture as long as it was dictated by him. You find sections in Tobit, you find sections, for instance, in extra writings of Daniel, in Enoch, you find in Yasher. So for some reason, people, they themselves are more religious than they thought of, and they went along with some portions of history that had limited the amount of texts related with the divine. YershiYAhu, or the divine, has never selected only 66. Whatsoever he spoke, it is considered as scripture, being in a regular 66 or an Yasher or Enoch or Tobit or any other scripture, as long as lines up with the Torah, obviously is related with the divine. So the first quest of a person understanding the divine is, you are not limited only to 66 texts. This truly is only a portion of what those people in the past, mostly from the Septuagint, decided to put together because, quote unquote, they were under the gun. They had to get this translation done, and it was paid by the state, so it had to be done. And at the end of it, they say, you know what, this work is a piece of crap, because there is so much going on in it, and it's not inclusive and repleted with troubles. So then they did it anyway. But when we make our decision of understanding the divine, you can be sure of it. These 66 is not limited. So then, besides these, there were in Turkey a while back, they found some, what do we know of the New Testament. They found other types of documents there. They are obviously selecting them and understanding them. So the quest for the divine, it's not as hard as you think of. People, when they hear something new, they go through a brainstorm, and some people, they take the levels, and you begin to wonder, it's like this. In these modern times we are living in, with the telephones and computers, and then you find iPhones and many other kinds of electronics, and then you go to the Amazon jungle and you try to speak with Indians over there. How would they perceive you talking with, on their end, a piece of log? Because they don't understand electronics. But one thing they do understand is character. Now, since they evaluate the character very closely and watch you playing around with your telephone, similarly would be a piece of material, or then a sliver of a log, how would they think of us? How would they think of you? Do they have the divine more than you do because you are so involved with electronics? So truly the divine is more perceptive in the lives of the Indians than in our own lives. At least they have the character of living out in those limitations that they were entrusted with. We have a huge amount of technology, and we get far away from the main source of the original manuscripts. And truly this is not judgmental. Obviously it was then traditions that were given on from generations and generations, but then when a person is caught in the midst of it, it makes a very interesting, sober reading of how much character we have after reading the texts. Can we then defend what we read so other people, they can learn? So truly this is a question that we should always answer it. Principally because Isaiah did walk naked for 36 months. So these evaluations and much more I'm going to talk later regarding also the life of Shimon. But it's very important for us to maintain our faith in what YershiYAhu has mentioned, and also understand the situations related then with the time of the end and then the autumn feasts. So please stay tuned, much more coming up.